La parole maintenant à Cristina Cattaneo et pour un peu résumer la raison pour laquelle nous avons voulu inviter Madame Cattaneo, c'est que si on voit, et Michael vient de nous le dire, qu'il y a aujourd'hui en Europe une espèce de déni de droit des migrants vivants, manifestement, ce déni de droit s'applique aussi aux migrants morts et à leurs survivants, que sont leurs familles, qu'elles soient dans le pays d'origine ou qu'elles soient en Europe. Alors ça a des effets très importants sur, d'une part, sur la dignité de ces personnes, et je pense que toute personne décédée a le droit à cette identité. Ça a des effets désastreux sur la psychologie des familles, mais ça a aussi des effets de droit et de statut sur les personnes, leurs familles, leurs liens. Et je pense que c'est vraiment très important d'entendre votre travail, votre témoignage et peut-être les recommandations qui peuvent être formulées au niveau européen pour venir à bout de ce déni de droit des morts migrants aujourd'hui dans la Méditerranée. Merci.
Thank you very much, President. It's an honor for me to be here. The appeal I wish to make today concerns the right to identity, as you heard. And I refer in particular to the thousands of migrant bodies buried without a name in European cemeteries. And I will begin by explaining, in the time you have kindly granted me, why the dead must be identified. One, for respect towards dignity of the dead and their families, a right enshrined by various bodies of law. Two, without identification, there's no death certificates. Fundamental for civil and administrative matters. For example, an orphan cannot be reunited with his only remaining relatives. Three, mental health. The mental health of the living looking for their dead. It is now recognized by medical science that those who do not find their loved one, a mother who does not know if her child is alive or dead, enter a limbo called ambiguous loss, which leads to depression and other diseases. It's therefore a right to health, for other reasons related also to justice and compensation. So when a plane crashes or a tsunami strikes, action is taken to identify the victims. What do we mean by action? To identify a body, an autopsy is required, obviously, to collect the so-called post-mortem data, useful for identification, from tattoos to DNA. But it's also crucial to contact the families in order to acquire similar data called antemortem data for the missing. The comparison of antemortem data with postmortem data will provide matches and hopefully identification. Hence, the need to set up and advertise places where relatives can go to search for the dead. In Europe, this is usually performed by scientific forces already dedicated to this kind of activity. However, in this historical period, we are facing the greatest disaster of our time, possibly, albeit diluted in time and space. And I'm referring to migration and its victims, amounting only in Europe to at least 40,000, of which a very large portion remains without a name. The identification of these bodies is the responsibility of Europe. But no European system or mechanism has ever been activated, apart from sporadic attempts by NGOs and isolated groups of academics and small government forces. When in 2013, the first Eritrean family members living in Europe started asking governments where they could go to find their dead, the answers were, it's impossible, data are scattered and missing. This is true. There are complexities compared to other disasters. The bodies and the information deriving from their autopsies, when they're performed, arrive almost every day on our coasts and borders, at different countries, in different cities, and in different prosecutors' offices, without a shared common repository. Moreover, it's difficult to get in touch with families, on the other hand, and they do not know where to turn for information. But does all this mean that it's not possible to identify them? The answer is no. The Italian experience, a pilot study carried out by academia, mainly the University of Milan, under the coordination of Governmental Office for Missing Persons, financed mainly by donations, has clearly shown that it is possible to identify them. Over the past 6 years, we have collected from prosecutors' offices post-mortem data concerning over 2,000 victims from 68 shipwrecks. We then focused on 400 victims of the tragedies of 3rd and 11th of October 2013, for which we had good quality post-mortem data, launching a call across Europe through embassies and NGOs and announcing places and dates for interviews with family members who were looking for their loved ones in these disasters. 100 families, only for these two events, showed up in Rome and in Milan from all over Northern and Central Europe to find their dead. And we were able to give answers and death certificates to more than half of these families. In some cases, the certificates were needed by orphans left behind in their countries of origin. We're doing the same for the disaster of April 18th, 2015, the one with 1,000 victims, for which we have requests from 400 families who are still looking for children, parents, siblings. In Italy alone, at least 3,000 victims await a response. But the lack of resources and of a European network denies these people the truth. The take-home message of this experiment is that family members are looking for their dead and need death certificates, and that these dead can and therefore must be identified. We have seen where the loopholes are and what the solutions may be, using government resources that already do exist. I stress that this activity must be governmental, as it involves exchanges of information between ministries and the issuing of administrative documents. Non-governmental forces can assist and, above all, facilitate the contacts with family members, especially in non-European countries. The following steps could be a solution for Europe. 1, a database in every state which largely already exists where post-mortem data is conveyed. 2, 1 or more hubs in every country known to the families of the missing migrants, where to interview and collect ante-mortem data concerning the missing. 3, a European manager, quote unquote, of all such data so that information on the disappeared and the dead collected in different countries can be cross-matched. And 4, that the collection and sharing of post-mortem and ante-mortem data among countries become mandatory. Only in this way will we have activated the necessary procedures to maximize the chances of identifying the dead and respecting the rights of these victims and their families. At this moment, nobody is doing this. These bodies are our business and our responsibility. We now know that we can aim towards a solution to a large extent with existing government resources and by implementing them and creating specific regulations or provisions. We therefore ask that the European institutions recognize and guarantee the right to identity, even of those who die in the context of migration. Thank you.